Hey, what's up YouTube? This is We All Juggle Knives, and this knife is the Kellam neck knife from Finland. It's got a Scandi grind. The blade length is around 2.1 inches. The steel is just listed as carbon steel. It's got one-piece construction with a cord-wrapped handle. And you see it's got an extended tang that is bent over in roughly a U shape. Right? And as I said, 2.1 inches, it is a tiny knife. There you can get a better idea. You see it in the hand. No, I just have incredibly huge hands. No, I'm kidding. My hands are about medium large, so yeah, it's a super small knife. Obviously more of an outdoorsy knife with that traditional Scandi grind. But really, the knife is so small that you could probably get away with carrying it almost anywhere. A sharp edge is always handy. Here's the sheath. It is a traditional leather sheath. It's stitched leather. It overlaps the handle by, I would say, about like 75% of the handle. So it's made for retention rather than necessarily whipping it out super quickly. It does hold it in. It holds the knife securely. And they do sell a more expensive version that has like a necklace with it. Speaking of size comparison, that is an Enzo Necker, another knife from Finland. Now stay tuned for my future review of that Enzo Necker. But yeah, it's a little larger than the Kellam. And comparing it to a Mora knife. Now you can really see how tiny this is. Why would you carry a small knife instead of like something like this Mora? Well, it's not really an either-or proposition because this is so small you could easily carry it in addition to whatever else you carry. But there you see, the entire knife is even a little shorter than just the handle of that Mora. And the last size comparison, this is my other Kellam knife that I've had, the Kellam Slasher. Yes, that is actually the name of the knife. It's named the Slasher, right? But Kellam's a cool company. And making some shavings with the knife. Now, yeah, it's a tiny knife, so it would be easier to use a larger knife. You could apply more force. However, if you had to, you could make some shavings with the knife and, light them on fire. Okay, demonstrating some push cuts. Push cutting with this blade. If you had to carve a piece of wood for whatever reason, if you had to carve a tip onto a piece of wood or carve the handle of a utensil, you could. You could do so with this fairly sharp knife. All right, now that wood is actually really tough and gnarly, so I would recommend using softer wood if you want to actually carve something, but that's what I had around. Okay, just making more shavings. Now, in the real world, you would brace this more against your chest, but I wanted to put the camera there to give you a better look at the edge interacting with the wood. So you get the idea. You could make shavings. Okay, you could also cut cordage, cut food. Okay, at this point, a cat invaded my knife review. A very well-fed cat. That's not mine, but it must be somebody's because it's a well-fed cat. Yeah, now you're famous, cat. So final conclusions on this Kellam neck knife. Well, first of all, the price. I'm not sure what the price will be when I post this, but it's going to be somewhere between 40 and 60 is what it usually goes for. So I will include a link on Amazon. But, a knife this short, probably not going to be your primary. But as I said, you're not choosing between this knife and a larger knife. It's so light and small that you could easily carry this in addition to whatever else you carry. It's not really the master of any one thing. For example, they do have specialized carving knives, And as far as slicing through things, it is fairly thick and it is a broad Scandi. So it won't slice through things the way like your kitchen utility knife would. So it's kind of like not the master of any one thing, but yet it's so small, it's a multi-purpose knife. A multitasker is what I'm trying to say. Also, don't underestimate how useful this would be just around town. You know, you don't have to go into the woods to use a tiny knife like this. It's a pretty nice knife. The one-piece construction is, it's a very strong knife, obviously, much better, much stronger than a little folder. The Scandi grind gets really fine at the edge, but that's well known. That's true of all Scandis, so, it could roll a tiny bit, but easily fix. I did try using it as a fire striker. It didn't do too well. I think you would have to maybe make make the angle on the spine, maybe make it sharper, rougher, get rid of some of that forged finish, and maybe some of the grease or oil that it comes with. Because I have heard people do use it as a fire striker, but you might have to modify it a little to do so. So overall, is this a good knife? Yes. The only thing is, you can't expect it to perform like a much larger knife. I mean, just the laws of physics. But within its limitations as a super easy to carry little fixed blade knife, it's got its strengths. The construction, the super sharp edge, and it's got the weaknesses of a small knife and the weaknesses of a super fine edge, right? So you have to know what it's good for, but within those limitations, it's excellent. And the price, quite moderate. Do you need such a tiny knife? That is really up to you. Some people could do fine without one. Other people want that convenience to just whip out a small knife for small tasks. I hope you enjoyed seeing this blade. This has been We All Juggle Knives. I'm out.